we can press ahead here with our lesson. So you see your outline here. I'm going to just read the outline if you'd like to try to fill in the blanks here. We look at Genesis 6:4. Please note the phrase, and also after that. The text indicates that there were giants on the earth in those days, meaning during the days of Noah, before the flood, and that there were giants also after that, meaning after the flood. We know there were giants before the flood, and we see they reappeared again after it. The exactly how or when this resurgence of giants came to be is not clear. The Bible doesn't give us an accurate answer, but a close look at the Old Testament indicates there were numerous races of giants after the flood. So Roman numeral 1 is Old Testament proof. And again, I'm going to go real quickly until I get up to where we were. In Amos chapter 2, it makes reference to the Amorite line. Amorites were giants after the flood, and their height was as tall as the cedars. Now, you understand what a cedar tree is. You live all around them, okay? But they were very, very tall, and they were as strong as oaks, it says there in the book of Amos. The Bible teaches that there were giants throughout the promised land. Numbers chapter 13, when the spies came back to spy out the promised land that Moses said that they were supposed to do, they came back and the spies said that it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. I believe it's a reference to the violence brought on by the giants. You recall the normal food did not satisfy the giants, so they turned on each other and on people. We studied that. They turned to cannibalism. So it was a very terrible time. And as you begin to assimilate this information, you understand why God sent a worldwide flood, because of the terribleness of the world before the flood. Roman number 2, the Anakims were giants. The most mentioned group of giants in the Old Testament are the Anakims, and you find that term in your Old Testament quite a bit. These are the descendants of Anak. Joshua told us about them in the book of Joshua quite a bit. The Anakims are spoken of 6 times. Moses speaks of how great in size and number that they are, but that the Lord defeated them through Israel. Joshua spoke much about the Anakims, but after many wars against several adversaries, he's told how that they were defeated through Israel. Caleb makes reference to the giants, and then there's a listing of them here. Roman numeral 3, giants in the promised land. The word Rephidim, Rephaim, is the Hebrew word for giant. And so we see that there were so many giants in the Old Testament that the place where they lived was referred to as the Valley of the Giants. You find that term several times, 2 Samuel 5, 18, 22, chapter 23, 1 Chronicles, Isaiah, all talks about the Valley of the Giants. There's a listing of the giants there in C under Roman numeral 3. The blank is the Hittites. If you'd like to fill the word Hittite in, all those are giants, races of giants that we find in the Old Testament. But it's interesting, and I'll just reiterate this thought, that indeed God used Israel and some other people, but mainly Israel, to defeat the giants after the flood. You remember Goliath. Goliath was a giant and defeated, of course, by King David. we'll go on. I'm going to say some more about that, so I'll just hesitate there. But for our class, we ended up on G, Roman numeral 3. So that's where I'm going to pick up now. I'm sorry that this is so choppy, but we're going to press ahead here. So G, we learn from the Bible reading that God protected the Amorites and did not let Israel fight against them. If you're familiar with the Old Testament and how they came into the land, a big reason for this was that they had fought against and defeated tribes of giants, and God protected them for that. Look with me, if you would, at Deuteronomy chapter 2. Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 19 through 21. The scripture says, "And when thou comest nigh over against the children of Ammon, distress them not, nor meddle with them, for I will not give thee of the land of the children of Ammon any possession, because I have given it unto the children of Lot for a possession. That also was accounted a land of giants. Giants dwelled therein in old time, and the Ammonites called them Zamzummims, a people great and many and tall as the Anakims. But the Lord destroyed them before them, and they succeeded them and dwelled in their stead." Roman numeral 4, Og, king of the giants. The Bible indicates that Og, king of Bashan, B-A-S-H-A-N, Bashan, was a giant in a class all by himself. We are given some of the interesting facts concerning him. So go with me, if you haven't already, to Deuteronomy chapter 3. Chapter 3. And Brother Lee, would you mind reading for us verse 11 there?
Only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. It is not in Rabbah of the children of Ammon. 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man.
Very good, thank you. So take note how big this fellow was. His bed was made of iron, that's B, if you're following the outline here, which was higher technology for that age. It was 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide, or it would have been about 16 feet long and 7 feet wide. How many have a king-size bed? Okay. Do you have a dimension of 7 foot in a king-size bed? Close, but not the length, the width. Okay? I get in it, you think, where is the next person? No, okay. So, can you imagine 16 feet? Now, I have a bed, and I didn't get the right, I almost touched both ends of my bed, but it's not near that long. So just imagine 16 feet. How tall is 16 feet, Eli? You have a comparison? How tall is a basketball goal, Brett? 10 feet. Well, then you got to stand a man on top of that. That's how tall this fellow was. 7 feet wide. Isn't that amazing? That's how tall this fellow is. Joshua tells us about him some 6 times in the conquest of Canaan. Joshua 12. Let's run over to Joshua chapter 12, verses 4 and 5. Brother Hilt, would you read Joshua 12:4, and Brother Cody, Joshua 12:5.
And reigned in Mount Hermon,
Thank you. We have a similar description of Og given to us by the Lord in Joshua 13:12. So look at Joshua 13, verse number 12. The scripture says, all the kingdom of Og in Bashan, which reigned in Ashtaroth and in Edrei, who remained of the remnant of the giants, for these did Moses smite and cast them out. So it is said that Moses smote these people and cast them out of the land. Let's go back to Deuteronomy again, chapter 3. We're just right here in this section of the Bible where it speaks a lot about giants. I'm just pointing these things out so that you'll understand that this isn't something being made up, that this is really, these people really were upon the face of the earth. Brother Fritz, would you read Deuteronomy 3:2 for us, please?
And the Lord said unto me, fear him not, for I will deliver him and all his people and his land into thy hand. And thou shalt do unto him as thou didst unto Sihon king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon.
Good. Now we know when Israel came in to take the land on the east side of the Jordan, they overcame Bashan and Og, and these were giants. And so God was getting them prepared in his strength to overcome these. D on your outline, Og is a leader of the giants. His kingdom extended far. His rule was over more than 60 cities, according to Joshua 13:15 through 21 and Deuteronomy 3:4. I won't take time to read those texts. You're welcome to take a look at them. Look at Roman numeral 5, many giants. The Bible gives us a strong understanding of the amount of giants on the earth as we read of Joshua dividing the promised land for the children of Israel to live in. And then I have these references here in Joshua 15:8, 17:15, and 18:16. He talks about the amount of giants that were in the land. See, we are familiar with Goliath, how that God used David to bring him down. Did you realize there were several other Philistine giants spoken of in Scripture? Go with me if you would. Let's read 2 Samuel 21. 2 Samuel 21. And I want you to see, if you probably already know this, but in case you didn't, I think you find it interesting. Start with me in verse 18, if you would. It says, and it came to pass after this that there was again a battle with the Philistines at Gob. And Sibbechai, the Hushathite, slew Saph, which was of the brothers of the giant. So, living at this time, we see, and his name is Saph, S-A-P-H, that's Goliath's brother, and a third unnamed giant having 6 toes on one foot, on each foot, and 6 fingers on each hand. So going on in verse 19 here, it says, and there was again a battle in Gob, and the Philistines, with the Philistines, where Elhanan, the son of, however you say that name, a Bethlehemite, slew the brother of Goliath, the Gittite, the staff of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. And there was yet a battle in Gath, where was a man of great stature that had on every hand 6 fingers, and on every foot 6 toes, 24 in number, and he also was born to the giant. So this lesson was simply to help you understand that the flood did not destroy the giants completely. It did at that time, but then there was a resurgence after the flood, And we just find all sorts of giants listed in the Old Testament, and indeed here how God dealt with them and what they that they were prominent. But in the conclusion, I think it's important that we take a look at here. It is to be known that the giants that lived before and after the flood were not legend or fantasy. You know, a lot of people think they're just, you know, a fantasy, they're just a legend, they're just mythology. But the Bible teaches that these really were true. They really existed. God dealt with the giants during Noah's day through the flood. The giants after the flood, God used Israel and others to deal with, of course, with God's help. Now, let me just open this up for any questions or any blanks. I know I went about 110 miles an hour tonight, but I'd be glad to help you. Yes, ma'am.
I guess I didn't catch the ones in G before Roman numeral 5 where we started.
Okay. So the first blank, Cheryl, is the word not. And then the second blank would be defeated. Anybody else need a blank? Yes, Sam?
Following on number 4, C, after Joshua.
Okay. The first blank is Lord, Lord. The second blank is Moses. Am I with you?
Is that C?
That's C under Roman numeral 4.
It says Joshua tells us about him some 6 times in the conquest of Canaan.
Let's see here. Yes. Joshua 12:4 and 5, we have a similar description of Og given by the Lord in Joshua 13:12. Uh-huh. Who else needs a blank?
I have 3 pages of blanks.
Yeah. You're welcome to look at my lesson, Jan. I didn't have time to go back. I'll never get done with this lesson if I start at the beginning. But I didn't want to lose our teenagers completely, which I probably did anyway, okay? But it is a very interesting study. And, you know, it's something that is reoccurring. If you're listening to anything current in the biblical teaching, this reoccurrence of teaching on giants is coming hot and heavy. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. We're going to get into it here as the Lord predicts how things are going to be before he returns. And that is, the Lord said that as it was in the days of Noah. Well, we're seeing that in the days of Noah there were giants. Now, there were a lot of deformities because of the DNA passed on. It is not God's plan for angels and humans to bring forth children. That was not God's plan at all. But they violated God's plan, suffered greatly for it, and that's what next week's lesson is all about. But because of that, there were giants, there were deformed people. Well, as they reproduced, things just get worse and worse and worse. And finally God said, okay, that's all. But now what's it going to be like before the Lord comes back? And I'll just leave you right there. I can't fill that part in, but the Bible's preparing us that we're going to be seeing strange things in the earth. Okay, so don't be shocked. Don't be surprised, okay? And I shared with the class, it was reported, I think it was in Florida, that they saw giants walking actually in Florida, just walking around. Now, giants, there's some tall guys. We've got I better not say that about my friend Leo, okay? But Leo's a tall guy. When I met Leo, he was 7'4". Would you call him a giant? Well, some people would, especially when he stood next to my daughter that was 4 years old. He was a giant. But you play professional basketball, 7'4", that's tall, but not unusual. So this gets beyond that. So that's why we brought up, the Bible makes it reference to Og, king of the giants, 16 feet tall. Where the boundary is from not a giant to a giant, I don't know. But just, it's kind of, the world is changing in this way, and it's because of this very thing. So we're going to continue to study it and see what we can learn. And so I'm going to leave my lesson here. Does anybody else have a question before we go? All right, I want to thank Brother Brett and Brother Eli and Miss Kennedy for driving the bus and picking up our young people. I really do appreciate them. I'll lay this lesson right here on the piano. If you want it, you're welcome to fill your lesson in. The only thing I pray is that it'll stay here. I would really like to keep it, okay? Thank you for coming, and you're dismissed.
Yeah, I would like to get that though.